I'm a former student of Miss Bell, and I am the granddaughter of the man I have the pleasure of introducing tonight. When Coach Bell asked me to introduce him, I said yes with no hesitation for two reasons. One being, I can't recall a time I asked my granddad for something or for his help for something and his response was no. The second reason, he just means the world to me. And he doesn't know that I was going to come up here and introduce him, but he is such a blessing in my life, so it was an honor for me to be able to introduce you tonight. I feel like we should always take time to appreciate the gems in our life who go the extra mile for us, and we may not always appreciate it, but I want you to know that I appreciate you. I'm sure everyone at this school who has had a conversation with him knows that when he speaks with so much love and so much compassion. So I just want you to know that we all appreciate you and we all love you, and it doesn't go unnoticed nor does it go unappreciated. So now I introduce to you your keynote speaker of tonight, my granddad, my Jim, Mr. James White.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know I was a gem. That is awesome. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor and privilege to address you on this evening's Black History Awareness Celebration. Yes, celebration. The celebration must be captured in every day and everything that we do. And as I prepared to come here, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that I talk to you about the celebration of life, the celebration of relationships, our personal successes, and the successes of others around us. As my granddaughter so aptly said, that we need to appreciate others and let them know that they're appreciated. It has gone by the wayside, but I think we can revive it even on today. I need you to know that these successes start at home. They migrate to our communities and to our state, our nation, and globally. I would like to acknowledge the superintendent, Dr. Todd Kaysen, and our principal, Dr. Elena Ponder, and the visionary, forward-thinking, inspired, tireless, prolific, and proliferator of this African-American culture in our school, Ms. Brittany Bell, who brought this program to fruition. God bless you and thank you. If you'll give me just a moment of your time, I would like to introduce you to my story. But I need everybody, like you did with Black Gold, to say and follow me. My story.
My story
matters.
Matters.
Can you say that one more time? My story.
My story
matters.
Matters.
Great. Now, I want to tell you about my story, but in telling you about my story, I hope that it reflects on you, your story, because your story matters also. And as I think about my story started in a time and a place that I have never been, but the story keeps being told to me. There's something about a story, and as you looked at, he talked about rap music, and one thing about rap music is a story. And when we look back in African culture, they passed on the story through song and through dance. And we haven't gone far from that even now. The beat is still in our feet, in our fingers, in our hearts. I need you to know today, I'm James White. My story started 62 years ago in Brunswick, Georgia. Just like some of you, and maybe not like some of you, I was adopted. You can't choose the family you're born into. You can't choose that circumstance. But I was adopted. I was adopted by uneducated parents. My father went to the 6th grade. My mother went to the 3rd grade. When they adopted me, they were already 50. I need you to understand. He was born in 1906. She was born in 1911. So even with that, we can't ignore the fact that history is what it is. But we can change our today. Your story can change today. But when I look at my story included Jim Crow. My story included having to go to separate restrooms, segregated schools, going to back doors of restaurants. But you know what it also included? It included parents who loved me, who didn't teach me hatred, but they taught me that you are somebody, that your story matters. You can be anything that you want to be. And their desire was that I be greater than they were. They told me the stories about being sharecroppers and how they had to live and coming through what was the Great Depression. But they had hope for my life. I want you to know that we have hope for your story, for your life. Your parents have hope for your life. I could have been Barack Obama because my parents told me, they said, son, you can be anybody and anything you set your mind to. They began to write my story for me. Parents, I want to tell you today that you need to begin to write your children's stories. In some cases, it's grandparents. The grandparents, you need to begin to write your children's stories. They don't know who they are or who they're going to be, but you can teach them and write their story because their story matters. I need you to know that it's a human story. It's a story filled with compassion. It's a story filled with love. My mom told me when she got older, she said, son, you don't know the days that me and your daddy didn't eat, but we made sure that you ate. Mothers and fathers, I see you out here. Some of you work 2 and 3 jobs to make sure that your children have a place to stay, food on the table, and that they have lights on and water on. And when it's off, you still give them the love that they need because their story matters. And you know, some of us come from families that there were 9 and 10 of you. Some of you come from stories where you had to wear hand-me-downs, but you made no difference about it because it was just my story. And you got to know that every day you're writing your story with every decision that you make. I helped write my granddaughter's story. And as we sat there, we read books about Dick and Jane, you're writing the story. As you help them put together puzzles, you're writing the story. As you say, I love you in the morning, and when they go off to school, I love you. When they come home, I love you. You're writing their story. I need you to know that my mother had 5 kids, and she gave all of them away, including me. But I don't feel some kind of way. You know why? Because when they come, my parents picked me up, they loved me. They made no difference about me. When your kids come here, I love them. We love them. We love them each and every day. And love helps you to write the story. I need you to know that even while we were coming through those days of Jim Crow, I need you to know that my parents never taught me hatred, even though some of you have seen the story Made, haven't you? My mom would get up and put on a gray dress and iron and white starch collars and white starch cuffs around her arms. She'd go to work, but it was a symbiotic relationship because the lady she worked for was the house that we lived in, and it provided for us. But I'm telling you, when Martin Luther King says, judge me not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character, write the story. Tell them an honest job. Telling the truth makes a difference. And I love you. I'm just telling you today that it doesn't matter because the lights were on. There was food on the table. As I began to look back, and I remember my mom and my dad telling me the stories, and I remember myself, that when I look at Martin Luther King, he says, no person has a right to reign on your dream. I need you to know that, but you have a right to dream. Give your children a dream today. Let them know that they too can go to college. Let them know that they can be Mae Jameson. They too can go into outer space. Let them know that they can be inventors. If you don't give them a dream, they won't have one. You need to begin to write the story. See, Mama and them didn't care whether you wanted to take piano lessons or not. They just knew that you need to be able to do more than one thing. They didn't care that you had to come up and you had to say your speech. You guys came up and you said your speech, and you had to bow when you took your Christmas speech and your Easter speech. But it taught you to speak in public. It taught you not to be afraid. It taught you that you can do more than just sit on a stump on a log. I was not there in 1619 when the Dutch ship dropped off those 20 African captured people in Jamestown. I wasn't there, but I heard the story. I wasn't there when Dred Scott went to the highest court in the land and was declared to be property and could be sold anywhere to anyone. I was not there when they signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, but I heard about it. Somebody began to tell me about it. As they wrote my story, they told me that if you will get an education, you too can go to the highest court in the land. You too can make a change. You too can influence somebody. Write your story. But your story has to be filled with some content. It has to be filled with something that will catapult you to hope, to joy, to faith. I need you to know that I wasn't there when they signed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, but I heard about it. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States of America. The 14th Amendment gave me the right to citizenship. I'm here to tell you that the 15th Amendment gave African American men the right to vote. But here, that was not enough because women were not there yet. I'm here to tell you that Plessy versus Ferguson was upheld, that segregation was okay in 1896. Why do I come to school? Because if I don't know where I came from, I can't know where I'm going. If you can't tell me what grandmama did and what granddaddy did and how they made a way for us, I won't know where I'm going. But you got to write the story. You got to tell them the story of those that came before you. That way you can tell them about your story and they know how their story fits into the big picture of the story of the world. We find that in 1919, I wasn't there when they signed the 19th Amendment. They gave women the right to vote, but I heard about it. I wasn't there on Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 when it abolished segregation. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. But you know what? I was there for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I was in the first grade in 1963. I remember when JFK got killed. I remember my mama crying and she said, son, you got to go back to school. You got to stay in school. You got to do something. You got to keep going because we want you to be better than we are. I need you to know that we watched that black and white TV as things unfolded and people were attacked and by dogs and sprayed with water hoses. It's just history. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to somebody. It was somebody's story, and that story changed my mind. It made me want to vote. It made me want to stand up. It made me want to protest. It made me want to write my story. I need you to know that the Voting Rights Act of 65, I was there. I registered in 1975. I've been voting in every election since. Your vote makes a difference. Your vote makes a difference. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice. Somebody died that you could have a voice. Somebody told the story that if you have the right, go ahead and vote. I need you to know that the Fair Housing Act of 1968, I was there. I bought my first house in 1999. I'm just here to tell you as I was writing my story, as the United States of America begins to change, as we look at the Constitution and the changes of the Constitution, it's when the people stand up, they make a difference. Write your story. Write your children's story. Let them know that there's nothing that they cannot do. that they can be president of the United States, that they can own their own companies, they can invent, they can sing, they can dance. Whatever they do, we're proud of you because it's your story. Martin Luther King said there's nothing more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And when I listen to that, there's nothing more dangerous than sincere ignorance, not wanting to learn, not trying to learn, having access and not wanting to do anything with it. And then sincere stupidity, knowing that what you're doing is wrong and continuing to do it. That's sincere stupidity. It doesn't bring about a change. I'm telling you that love brings about a change. I'm telling you that kind words bring about a change. I'm telling you that going in your community and picking up the paper brings about a change. I'm telling you to help your little brothers and sisters to read brings about a change. Write your story. I'm almost done, you guys. Did you know that 78% of Americans have broadband? That means that anybody can, just about everybody can get on the internet. You need to get on the internet to know what your children's grades are, who your children's teachers are. You need to get on the internet to know where they are. Oh, let me tell you one other thing. In my house, there's no privacy. I was in the military and I heard of a brother and he took the doors off of all of the rooms. Mamas, daddies. If Bill Gates, who's one of the richest men in the world, limits the amount of time that his children spend on social media, on games, and on electronic devices, at 9 o'clock, you need to get you one of those spider chargers. Have everybody bring all their devices in your room and put them on your dresser. Then you will know exactly where they are because you will be writing their story. I need you to understand that there's 328 million people in America today. There's one birth every 8 seconds. There's one death every 11 seconds. There's 7 billion people in the world today. I need you to know that your story matters. Your story matters. I don't know which college you're going to, but you need to make sure that that's a part of your story. But while I'm talking about your story, I need you to understand this. In 2018, somebody once said that there were more black men in jail than there were in college. And that was a lie. It was a lie. Let me give you a statistics from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. In 2018, blacks with bachelor's degrees made up 31% of the workforce. 31%. Blacks who had at least 2 years or some college made up 32%. Only 6% of the workforce were those people who had no high school diplomas. So the other 40% were people who had high school diplomas. You have a purpose. Write the story. I need you to understand today. Your story doesn't have to look like my story. One of the things we do wrong is we compare ourselves with other people. Your story don't have to look like my story. I graduated college when I was 44 years old. 44. Your story doesn't have to look like my story. But I had a purpose. I had a vision. And I stuck to it. 44 years old. The love of my life. Baby, will you stand up? That's my sweetheart back there. That's my sweetheart. Ladies, my wife graduated from Valdosta State University last year at the age of 63 with her bachelor's degree in sociology. She is a commissioner on the Valdosta Housing Authority. I love you, baby. Her tenacity, her strength, her vigor to do what she set her mind to do makes a difference. I'm here to tell you, your story doesn't have to look like my story. But it's your story. Write it. You may have to erase some chapters. You may have to start some chapters over. And it's okay. Because it's your story. Your story makes a difference in your household, in your family. Your story makes a difference in your community. Your story makes a difference in the school. Your story makes a difference in the world today. Your sphere of influence will change something and somebody. Parents, we already know that you want your children to be better than you are, to have more than you have. Children, grasp the dream to be anything that you want to be. And the next time we ask you who you want to be, make sure that you outlined it, you researched it, because your story matters. If you'll say it with me, my story